In this episode, I chat with Chris Vai about his experience winning the U.S. Open, bowling with Team USA, and more. I'm Tim Young, and this is The Bowler's Mind. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
So, first of all, I want to start off, congratulations on winning the Strike Derby.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
How was that experience?
It was a lot of fun. I had no idea what to expect going into it. It's kind of one of those things, it's not like you try at home. And
Right.
but yeah, it was kind of just go with it, see what happens type of deal. And thought it was going to be a little more tiring than what it was, but I think it was just the adrenaline with, the crowd there and everyone cheering you on that um, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It definitely still takes a toll on you for sure, but I managed a little better.
Well, you seem like a guy who's in pretty good shape, too, so that probably helps out a little bit.
It does. It helps some, that's for sure.
On that note, do you think that more professional bowlers are taking their fitness more seriously? Because obviously, there's always been a stigma in bowling of
hmm
drink beer and bowl, and a lot of bowlers may not be the best in shape. They're just out there to have fun and stuff. But at the professional level, it seems like you guys, the amount of games you have to bowl and the toll you put on your body, it seems like that would be a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, especially my generation, I think we kind of, I don't want to say we started it, but I think my generation kind of woke up the previous generation. It's like, oh, okay, like if we want to keep up with these guys, I think we need to make some changes. So um, it seems like some of the guys that have been on tour, for a few years before us, now are taking it a bit more seriously, trying to, gain any sort of advantage they can,
Sure.
or just, obviously, like you said, the longevity of tournaments, and now how compact our season is, where it's, middle to end of January to the end of April, early May. And, I think this year, statistically, I bowled a little over 400 games
Wow.
in about 3 months. So yeah, and that's not including, any sort of practice or anything like that. So yeah, that couple month stretch there is very long. So any way you can kind of build up some strength and
Right.
decrease the chance of injury
Sure.
is pretty big.
As a two-hander, do you think that the toll you put on your body is greater than, say, some of the veterans of the sport like Norm Duke and Parker Bone, who are more of a stroker style? Do you think you put more toll on your body with that style?
No, I think if done properly, I think the two-handed technique actually will do less to the body. I feel like the ball swings in a much smaller, compact area. Now, obviously, our um, left side of our body is a bit more engaged, or the off arm is a little more engaged, but um, it is a bit more. I want to say a bit more athletic of a position, but it's one that requires a bit more balance. With your weight a little more heavily on one side, and the balance arm doesn't really come out until the very end. So um, maybe a touch different muscle groups being used, but
Right.
I feel like we haven't really seen any massive injuries from any two handers. So those people that thought we were going to have issues, just a few years down the road,
Right.
they're still waiting. So.
Right. Going back to the strike derby, just out of curiosity, how did you get selected to be on the show?
So they had the top seven in strikes throughout the year. So with Lane Talk, they were actually able to keep the exact number of strikes that everyone threw. So they had the top seven, and then Kyle, since he won the previous year, had a chance to defend.
Well, let's go talk about the your 2023 tour season. How would you recap that for us?
Slow start, very slow start. The first part of the year didn't really bowl great. I had one good tournament. So actually, the second tournament of the year, I bowled pretty well. But other than that, the first real swing, and then even a bit after that, it was just kind of mediocre. Not really anything great to show for. I didn't feel like I was bowling that poorly, But I think it was just not seeing the lanes the right way, not making the right adjustments, and just keeping up with what was happening around me, and I just wasn't doing quite a good enough job at that. But I felt like I was bowling well, so I just kept at it, kept trying to make some changes, whether it was drilling some different bowling balls or different layouts, and um, just trying to kind of take a step back and look a little bit more at the bigger picture to see what I could change to obviously try to you know increase the scores a bit. Um, and kind of middle way through the year, we found something, and uh, then I was kind of able to start seeing the picture again. I was making moves a little quicker. The guesses were correct more often than not, and yeah, so I started bowling well. And then obviously, when you get some confidence, doing the right thing, you tend to make the decisions a little quicker and tend to be correct a bit more. So um, just rode that wave and made some shows there towards the end of the year. So all in all, ended up being a fairly solid season. No title to speak of, but definitely some good momentum towards the end of the year.
Good. What did you find that seemed to make the biggest difference?
Yeah, just I couldn't get my ball to see the correct part of the lane. Like it just felt like it was either getting too far down the lane, or if I tried something else, it was seeing the front part of the lane a little bit too much. So it just forced me into a situation that just wasn't ideal. And if you're in a not ideal situation against the best bowlers in the world, it doesn't work out very
Right.
often. So um, just I messed around with some layouts, messed around with some different bowling balls, and I found a couple that I mean, it kind of almost seemed like they were just magic, where it just kind of wanted to do the right thing for me. Um, and I was able to throw them in a lot of different tournaments and kind of a lot of different situations. So they just kind of fit my eye a bit better, and um, you kind of start seeing the correct thing. You start making some better shots as well because you got the confidence that you're doing the right thing. So then it just kind of a stepping stone to keep bowling better and seeing the right thing. So um, yeah, it was a couple different bowling balls that just seemed like they were made for me, and I was able to take advantage of those.
Do you have a formula that you use when preparing for a tournament, whether it be a short pattern, long pattern, that kind of use as a foundation to build your arsenal for that tournament?
Not really. I just try to have a large variety, kind of in the arsenal, whether it be, obviously typically urethane ball, right? Everyone's got to have the urethane ball. And then my spare ball obviously take up two spots, and then try to have a big, strong, solid asymmetric bowling ball, which I don't use very often. But you got to have it just in case, and then kind of have that asim pearl, and you kind of have the symmetric solid, the symmetric pearl, and then you kind of have a wild card type of bowling ball, like a unique one that um, maybe has that special occasion when it's good. It's really good.
Right.
Probably won't use it too often, but it's got that just that difference to where it's something that you don't typically have. So it's like you feel like you're kind of lost. You don't really know what's going on. Maybe that one comes into play. So um, yeah, just trying to have a large window of options in the bag
Sure.
that I don't feel like I'm ever shut out.
Right. Leading up to the 2023 tour season, how are you feeling about your game?
I felt okay. I felt like I was bowling pretty well. Um, the prior year wasn't my greatest, so it was kind of one of those like I kind of wanted a little bit of redemption. I kind of wanted to come back and make some shows, make some at least make a run at another title. So um, it wasn't like the utmost confidence, but it was a kind of wanting that redemption type of deal.
Sure. You've been on tour since 2017. What do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned over that period of time?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Or give
It's
us
such a
maybe
different.
give us top three.
Yeah, it's such a different game out on tour. I wish you could explain it like a bit better, but the best explanation is actually going out there and bowling against the people. because like the transition is so fast. It's so quick. Like you're making moves before you're making other moves, and it's just like you're thinking ahead, and but also trying to stay in the moment at the same time. And so it's a lot more strategy based. Um, it's not necessarily who's making the greatest shots that week, but it's kind of who's figuring out where you got to be, how quick you got to get there, and then who can get there the quickest. So it's yeah, it's just it's a little more fast paced than like not the physical bowling itself, but it's the the making the moves, the transition, the um, trying to stay one step ahead type of deal. That is so much quicker than everything else. But um, yeah, it's just so different. Like it's very hard to explain. I wish I could explain it a bit better, um, but that and a speed control, like speed control is so massive out on tour. With the new equipment rules coming into play next year, and um, I would assume probably some pattern changes as well. That maybe all of that stuff changes too. Um, but speed control is probably the most important variable that you can control out on tour. And I think that was a little harder for me the first few years. I did not bowl very well. I was good at throwing it hard,
Hmm.
but I was not very good at throwing it slow.
Gotcha.
And throwing it slow on tour is like you gotta be able to throw it slow. And just was not my cup of tea for a while. So finally learned how to do that, and it's been a bit better since.
Is being able to roll it slower, is that because of how deep you have to get so fast?
Yeah, I mean the lane machines that they use on tour, like they don't have any reverse oil on them, so that the lanes tend to break down a little bit quicker. At least the fronts don't hold up quite as quick. Um, so the fronts kind of go away. Obviously, everyone on tour has 450 plus rev rate. It seems like nowadays. So the front part of the lane gets destroyed anyway. But now it's happening even faster. But with the prevalence of urethane bowling balls, lanes somewhat get a little tighter down lane as well.
Okay.
So now you got the fronts hooking, but the back part of the lane doesn't hook. So you got to move left to get away from the early front hook, but they're tight down lane. So then you got to be able to adjust it with speed to be able to get the ball to hook down lane. So it seems like you pretty much do that every single week. It's just a matter of how quick or slow you do it and with what bowling ball.
So the patterns you bowl on tour, they don't use reverse oil. It's just all forward.
When the Brunswick machine goes down the lane, yeah. So the Brunswick machine has as they've it's been a long time. I can't even remember when they started doing the tour, but it was probably before I started bowling. Um, but yeah, so the U.S. Open and the Masters, Kegel does those lanes, so that would be a bit different. But any of the actual PBA tournaments, that the Brunswick machine goes down the lane, yeah, that doesn't do any reverse oil.
So does the tour only use Brunswick machines? They don't use Kegel machines?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
they have a deal with the Brunswick,
Okay.
so yeah,
You mentioned about new equipment rules for next tour season. Can you elaborate on that?
yeah.
What they're going to be making you guys do?
Yeah, so the reactive balls now we can only have within 2 years, so it can't be made prior to. It will be August of 22. So it'll be kind of like a within a 2 year rule, and then the urethane balls will have to be now manufactured at a 78 hardness. So if the bowling ball falls under the umbrella of a urethane or a urethane like bowling ball, it has to be produced at 78 hardness. Everything else is 73.
Okay.
So it's basically they're taking the information and the data that they got, saying that urethane balls typically, um, or they can get softer in between 4 and 5 points with use. So that's kind of how they came up with the 78 number. So if it does fall 5 points, it still falls under the 73. Um, manufacturing rule. So yeah, so that'll make a big change. Obviously, the harder the bowling ball typically has less traction on the lane.
Sure.
So I would imagine it's probably going to hook a little bit less.
Okay.
We don't really know. Actually, as of yesterday, Storm announced that their bowling ball that's coming out, the IQ 78U.
Okay.
Haven't had a chance to throw it yet, but I guess this will kind of be our option for next year.
What are your goals for next season, the 2024 season?
Yeah, I think the first one obviously is to win again. You got to be able to, don't want to kind of be that one trick, or no, I guess wouldn't be one trick pony, but that kind of that, um, that person that just has that one title, right? You want to prove that you can do it again. So that would obviously definitely be goal number one. But really just building on that momentum that I created kind of this back part of this year. I'm giving myself chances. I'm getting onto shows. I'm getting into um, kind of better situations where it was like, even when I was first making shows, I was like fourth or fifth seed, like every single time. I felt like I bowled okay on TV, and I didn't really have any bad games, but I just wasn't able to win. Um, but then, starting to kind of qualify a bit better, I guess, to give myself an even better chance on TV. Um, so I think just trying to continue to build on that. Um, if I feel like if you keep making TV shows, eventually you're gonna win. So um,
Sure.
yeah, I just trying to keep it simple and keep going well.
Which, I mean, the notorieties you have to your name. I mean, you won the U.S. Open and have two televised 300s, so those are obviously nothing to sneeze at.
No, no. I mean, it's the resume. I feel like it's if you would have told me this, after my first couple years on tour, I probably would have laughed at you because it was not very good. So, um, being able to have those accolades, with my name, it's really really cool. But it's you know I'm a bowler. You always want more. You always want to keep chasing it. You want more titles. You want more big games on TV. So um, yeah, it's just trying to keep compiling that resume and getting as big as possible.
Let's start at the beginning of your story. How did you first get into bowling?
Yeah, my family, pretty much everyone bowled. My dad was the biggest bowler of pretty much everyone. I mean, he bowled pretty much every night of the week. Was bowling league, and it was just that's kind of what my family did. We hung out at the bowling alley. I went down, sat into the bowlers area with all the other bowlers, and was giving them five when they were coming back off the lanes, and I wanted to be like my dad.
Mm,
So I loved bowling. I wanted to do what he was doing. He was a really good bowler. So I was kind of amazed at what he was doing, and yeah, I wanted to do the same thing.
mm.
So I just was around a bowling alley all the time, and once I got kind of old enough to somewhat hold a bowling ball myself, he was letting me bowl after league. So um, yeah, just I was introduced at a very young age, and just never went away from it.
Did you start as a two-hander?
Yeah, I mean, I was 18 months old when I started bowling,
Okay.
so it was kind of that I really had no choice but to
Right.
to bowl two
I guess
handed
we,
type of
we all
deal.
at that age we all start as two-handers.
Exactly, exactly. But I just never kind of changed. It developed into kind of a little bit more swinging it on the side of my body to get it to go a little faster. And I was always a pretty small kid, so that probably played somewhat a part of it to where it probably took me a little longer to get strong enough to do it one handed. But by that time, I'd kind of figured out how to hook the ball. And even though I was going a couple miles an hour, I thought it was pretty cool that I could throw it that way, and then it went that way at the end. So um, I think that probably kind of got me hooked at a pretty young age as well.
Is your dad a one-hander or a two-hander?
He's one-handed. Yeah,
Okay.
he's a lefty as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we
One
got
of
a
the
lot
lucky
of home
ones.
video. Yeah, we got a lot of home videos of him trying to get me to bowl left-handed. So it's pretty funny. But I always say, I'm right-handed at heart, but my dad tried to get me to bowl left-handed, so that's why I just chose to do both.
Did you play any other sports growing up?
Pretty much everything. Yeah. I grew up in a smaller town in Ohio, but pretty much soccer was about the only sport that I didn't play. Um, yeah, I played baseball, I played football, I played basketball, I ran cross country, track. Yeah, pretty much
All around
anything I
athlete.
could do, anything I could do to stay active. I was a pretty active child, and I was always outside. So all my friends played sports as well. So yeah, just anything to get running around. But now I'm golf, pretty big golf guy. So I started golfing. Um, I was probably like 11 or 12 when I started golfing, and um, yeah, my uncle was actually a really good golfer, so he was always the one trying to get me to golf instead of bowl. And but yeah, so I fell in love with that sport as well, and it's nice, obviously, being a professional bowler and owning a pro shop. I'm inside a lot, so to be able to get outside and golf some is a lot of fun.
Have you ever played Chris Barnes in miniature golf?
I have not,
I've
and
heard he's pretty good at that.
yeah, I think it's smart that I don't. At least without any wager. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So then going into your college years, you bowled collegiately too, correct?
Yes, yeah. I went to Notre Dame College of Ohio.
Okay.
It's about 15 minutes east of downtown Cleveland. So it's funny because yeah, obviously I say I went to Notre Dame. Everyone assumes Notre Dame, and I was actually we were just at in Bayside in Portland, Maine, and Ohio State, which I'm a fan of Ohio State, growing up in Ohio and now living in Columbus, um, was playing Notre Dame, and it was a really close game. But we were watching the TV, and Stu Williams looks at me. He's like, "How are you not conflicted right now?" And I'm like, dude, I didn't go to that Notre Dame. I was like, I probably wouldn't be a PBA bowler if I went to that Notre Dame. I'd be, but yeah. So it's just funny that even some people that I've known for a very long time
hmm
still don't know the Notre Dame that I went to. But it's a small school. It's a small school. I think probably less than 2,000. Well, I know they had less than 2,000 kids when I was there. I don't know if they do now, but
So the Notre Dame you went to is it not connected to the Notre Dame that we
no,
know?
it's still a Catholic college.
Okay.
So it's in the Sisters of Notre Dame, um, I guess network, but they're not affiliated. No.
Okay.
They were blue and yellow though as well, so
Okay.
also didn't help the
Right.
narrative of the being the Notre Dame. They're different blues and different yellows, but yeah, it was still confusing for a lot of people.
What's your fondest college memory competing at that level?
Honestly, just the group of friends that I created at that school is, I mean, that's literally what I will remember for, I mean, the rest of my life. I still have a group chat. We talk every single day. I have five or six guys that we talk every single day, and I mean that's by far the best memories. I mean, there's plenty of memories on the lanes as well, but yeah, just being able to create those friendships, and I knew some of them before college, but not nearly as well as what we know them now. So we've been to weddings together and seen them have kids and all that. So it's been pretty cool to kind of grow up in almost that extended family. So it's yeah, that by far definitely the best memories that I got, or most of them are off the lanes.
I see your Team USA jerseys there behind you and your medals. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about your Team USA experience?
yeah. I mean, it's one of those. It's anytime you can represent your country, it's a pretty special feeling. And being able to do it at the highest level, I've been able to do it both youth and adult, bowling the world championships for Team USA. So I've been very fortunate to have that opportunity and been fortunate enough to win both of them as well. So um, it's a pretty cool feeling. I think Marshall and I were actually both on both teams. So that was pretty cool. In 2012 we won the youth one in
Mm,
Thailand,
okay.
and then in 2017 we won the team one in Vegas. So or the adult team in Vegas. So um, yeah, being able to stand up on that podium, kind of hearing your national anthem being played, um, yeah, a feeling you can't really describe too much. Obviously, we'd love to have bowling in the Olympics, but those are kind of our version of the Olympics where we're competing against every country's best of the best, and for us to be able to have such a strong team for so long, and me being able to be a part of it, um, it's a super cool feeling.
Do you also bowl with Darren Tang, who's also your roommate on tour on
Yeah,
the USA
yeah,
team?
absolutely. Yep, yep. So we actually bowled in Dominican this year. So we had the PABCon, or Pan Am Championships. That they keep changing the names of them, so I can't remember what they are. But yeah, so we both traveled this year to Dominican Republic. So it was myself, Darren, Nick Pate, John Janowitz, um, and Brandon Bone, and I'm missing one, Matt Russo. So yeah, so that was the sixth that we went down to Dominican Republic with this year. So yeah, it's just a great group of guys. I mean, the I think we have 12 on the team this year. We had camp in August, and it was one of the best camps that I've been to, just out of um, enjoyment. Like we enjoyed hanging out with each other. We all had a great time. It wasn't just a we went, we trained, and we went back to our room, and that was it. We actually hung out outside of training as well. So um, this group is one of the more enjoyable groups. Not that any of the other ones aren't, but it just felt like we had a lot more kids our age this year as well. So we've kind of taken that leap into that next generation. The Tommies and the Bills and the Chris Barneses and the Wes Malotts. Like, they were around for so long on the team, and they created such a powerhouse of a team. And now we're trying to do that with that next group. And you got the Troops and the Prathers, and AJ Johnsons, and so just those guys that we have in this kind of age bracket now, where now we're the old guys on the team.
Can you share a humorous or funny story with rooming with Darren Tang?
A funny story. Oh man, I'm sure I got plenty of them. Um, Definitely some that probably wouldn't want to share.
Those are the ones I
Um,
want you to share, of course.
yeah, I know. Um, I'll have to think on that one. I'll have
Okay.
to think on that one. I'll come
Okay.
back to it.
Who is the messiest roommate?
The messiest roommate, Brad Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like he's not really that messy, but he'll leave water bottles everywhere, and none of them are finished.
Mm.
Like, he'll drink half of one, set it down, doesn't know where he put it, so he'll get another one, drink half of that one, and then by the end of the week, it's legitimately, you have a case of water scattered around the house or the counter, wherever. Um, yeah, I would have to say, Brad. It's really not even that messy. It's
Yeah.
just the water bottles they're
Just the
just
room's
everywhere.
covered.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Obviously, when you're on tour, you guys are bowling so much, you don't get to practice much. But when you have time to practice, how do you like to structure a practice? Are you a very structured practice person, or do you like to kind of just get reps?
Yeah, a lot of just kind of getting reps, but if I need to focus on, a specific key element, then obviously that would be the practice per se. Um, so kind of halfway throughout the year, if I'm feeling like, man, like this isn't feeling right, or this isn't doing well, obviously when I get to chance of practice, that's going to be my main focus for that practice. But if things are feeling pretty good, if I feel like I'm bowling well, yeah, then it's just more of a repetition thing, just to stay fresh, stay sharp, and make sure you don't forget how to bowl.
Are you currently working on anything?
Yeah, so still, it's getting a little bit more comfortable, but I was kind of getting my swing stuck a little bit, where I kind of, when I push away and extend away from me, I tend to want to hold on to it for a split second too long, which kind of gets everything out of time a little bit, and then you kind of got to force it back into time and start using a little bit too much muscle there. So yeah, trying to kind of round off that push away and get it into the swing a little bit quicker is kind of what I've been working on for the last couple months, and it's getting there. It's feeling pretty good now, but still on the forefront of the mind. Make sure I don't forget about it.
You've obviously been on some big stages like the U.S. Open, national television. How do you manage the nerves in those kind of big stage situations?
Yeah, I was actually just talking with someone about this the other day, and I don't really get nervous on TV. I get more nervous like the build up, like the waiting to get started. Like that's when I feel the nerves, and it's just like I just want to get out there and start bowling. Like the anticipation and the waiting is the part that gets me. But once I get out there, I feel like I just kind of get lost with what's going in the game. Like everything kind of goes away, and it's obviously the crowd and everything's there, but it's I'm so focused on what's happening, with my ball motion or whatever needs to change, or if I need to make an adjustment or whether to go here or there. So um you know I, I don't know if it's a fortunate thing or not that I don't necessarily get nervous, but well, I shouldn't say I don't get nervous. I mean, if someone says they don't get nervous, it's a bold-faced lie. But um but I feel like I can kind of zone in on what I'm trying to accomplish. That takes some of that away. But I will say that the first shot I ever had on TV was the 2019, no, 2020 US Open. It was right before COVID. So the 2020 US Open was the first um, individual shot I had on TV at the US Open. And that one, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to take my first step. That was definitely an intimidating one. Luckily, it went well. I didn't win the game, but the first shot went well at least.
Good.
Um, but yeah, it's just trying to treat it like any other game, and it's obviously very much easier said than done. But um, yeah, it's one of those you kind of forget about the cameras and the TV, and you focus on the task at hand. And we bowled a bunch of games that week. That if you're one of the TV finalists, you're obviously bowling pretty well. You're seeing the lane pretty well. So just trusting in those abilities and trusting what you've done all week to keep making good shots and hopefully winning matches.
This concludes part one of my conversation with Chris. Stay tuned for part two, but in the meantime, share this episode with a friend and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time on The Bowler's Mind.